Okay, we're recording.
And this is I guess, an informational video for guild members to know what are expected of them, and as well just touch on some topics that might be pretty interesting about White Aegis.
Yep, pretty much. So it's going to be done in a Q&A format. And if you guys have any additional questions later, please send either me or Kalis a private message, or just hit us up on Engine.
Maybe we'll even make a thread for some questions.
Okay, let's get started.
So first up on the topics list was officers' duties. Now I take it there's going to be like general officers and department heads, or just the department head officers? I'm not sure.
Okay, I'll explain it very quickly. Mostly the officers are departments heads. So you're going to have your ambassador, your lieutenants, which are head of militia, head of research, and your supervisors, which is exploration and knowledge officer. But on top of that, you have the captains. Captains will vary because they can be high-ranked officers, or they can be only IC officers and OC at the same level as the other. The main point of the captains are that they are general, but they're basically representing their race. Currently we have 3, which is human, Norn, and Sylvari. We might have a need for an Azura and Char 1 at some point, though right now having only 1 Azura and very recently 1 Char, it's not a need at the moment, but if those population were to grow, we would need someone to represent them and make sure that their culture is taken into consideration when we have projects going.
I see. And what exactly are some of the responsibilities that you are thinking that these officers should have? Just the department heads first.
Okay. I'm going to go briefly on some because we're going to talk more in details about them later. Some of them are unique to the department, and there are some generalized within all the officers. So all of the department heads will definitely be in charge of some crafting management. We're going to be a bit more in detail with that. So each department has some section of crafting associated to them. For example, militia has the smithing associated to it. So they're definitely in charge of that. And then they, of course, have all of them have the routine of their department. So they have to be caring for the rosters and definitely the initial training of all their members. Okay, so the ones that are unique to the departments, I'm going to go department by department, starting with political. So your ambassador, right now being Kalis, have additional responsibilities. So you have recruitment, for starters, which is very important, and project management in the sense of social events. So they're the one who are kind of organizing what kind of help they need, the location they're going to be looking into, and sort of deciding what time and how to promote those events. On top of that, ideally, a big part of their responsibility is maintaining relationships with other guilds, as well as NPCs that are basically your local authorities or political powers. But OCLE, and well, we can also have that IC, they kind of do a little bit as well with resource management, so our funding, basically. So that kind of covers the ambassador's role.
Alright, that actually sounds pretty straightforward. How about the department head in charge of knowledge and exploration?
So the supervisor has kind of 2 departments in one, because he has the spies as well, or she, because it could be female. It's just not, we don't really have any right now. But
What do you need?
the spies is something that's taken very under wrap, and it's something that he would definitely have to collaborate a lot with our political department to make sure to keep it very confidential. But he has to keep a special roster for his spies, as well as handle the dispatching of the spies whenever there's a project needing them. Otherwise, he has to do the management again of his new staff, make sure to engage into projects. Projects for exploration and knowledge is sending people out to make sure we have good maps of the area. And by maps, I don't necessarily mean just paths. Basically, get to know some points of common danger. And that's going to be very easy to do with the game's mechanics, because you have events that might occur. So if you have zones that are centaur intensive, for example, because that's one that is very well known in Queensdale, might want to have like a danger area here. If we have bandit activity that's IC, and you know that, let's say, the cartel operates a lot in a certain section of Queensdale, and you've seen them RP there when you're walking in RPVE or just in character, you know, you might want to zone that as some bandit activity. And this is going to be able to be communicated to the militia to help them do their patrols. So that's one of their IC responsibility. And last one is really making sure the historian keeps good logs of the meetings. If we have big events, let's say we go and do an IC dungeon, the historian would kind of keep the outcomes on record. Same thing with big, let's say, plots between 2 or 3 guilds. You know, what's going on, we have to keep the reports logged in.
Alright, and talking about informing the militia, what exactly would the militia heads be in charge of there?
Using the information from exploration and knowledge, they have to do basically patrols and guards. So we have to look into routes, paths that they need to look into, as well as guard duties. The guard duties are, we have a few levels of it, and they just have to do the scheduling of it. So that's very, very simple. Who's going to be in charge of watching HQ? Who's going to be in charge of, if we have some knowledge and exploration being dispatched for a special mission somewhere, so, you know, being the one dispatching them to do the guarding of that. When we have social events, we want to have 1 or 2 bodyguards outside to make sure if there's a fight that breaks out, they go there and try and break it up and settle the peace. So that's the more easy parts. On top of that, with your soldiers, your patrols, and your guards, you want to make sure that everyone is up to snuff with skills. So routinely, it's their job to really make sure they keep their staff trained. So have some IC activity to make sure that everyone has some combat in them recently, so they're not rested when they get on the field. Your soldiers, you have to manage certain projects to keep them busy. So if you heard, or when the scouts were out, or when your patrols were out, they saw some kind of activities, you have a big event that breaks out, and it becomes a danger, let's say, for the local farms, you know, it would be a good opportunity to say, okay, soldiers, you're dispatched there, there's some people needing help, and that's kind of the job of the soldier, to go and protect the people. So where the patrols can do part of soldier job, they're kind of the reinforcement. So that's a little bit our militia.
Alright, and the final department that we have to worry about is that of research. So what exactly would some of the unique responsibilities be for the head of research?
Research is very black and white in a sense. There's medical. So of course when we have injuries, they're the ones who are going to be coming in to help our own members recuperate. But at the same time, they take a lot of their projects. So it's really, if you find some new artifacts, if you find specimens, they're going to be the one trying to research what the function and how we can probably turn things to our advantage. See if we can turn the Dragon Project would be an example. So if you get a piece of Krackaltaric, I probably said that wrong, the Crystal Dragon's scales or something, you know, if they can study it and see if we can find a weakness in it, or maybe turn its own essence into a poison that could weaken him or something like that. So it's really project based. So whenever you have a find, they kind of have a research on it advanced. So it's the officer's job to make sure that we keep some project going. So they have to be very creative people.
All right. So moving on to crafters management, as you mentioned earlier on, you said that each department would have like sort of specific crafting disciplines attributed to them. What exactly would they be?
Okay, so for the heads of all the departments, when they do crafting management, what would be probably the ideal would be on the forums that each department has a list of recipes available for people to order. So if we have militia, for example, with our smiths, we've got armor smiths and weaponsmiths. What weapons can they provide to the guild? What armor are they able to make? So basically what recipes by our crafters have been unlocked. Provide it and say, okay, they'll be managing all the demands and to see how we're going to manage all that resources. Same thing would go with head of research with, I believe it's artificing? I might be saying that wrong, sorry.
Oh, you got it.
And enchantment. I'm trying to think of the other one. Handicrafters goes into your exploration and knowledge, and I think I'm missing one crafting. Oh, the chef isn't one we have in anywhere, but we could pretty much put the chefs into our political because it's something that companies